Admiral Cain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his ship. He looked at the big screen in front of him. His hands were shaking a little. What he saw made his heart beat faster. Huge alien ships were coming toward Earth. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars. "How many ships do you count?" Cain asked his officer. 312 ships, sir," the young man replied. His voice was quiet and scared. Cain had been in space for 20 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen anything like this. The alien ships were massive. Each one was 10 times bigger than Earth's largest battleship. They looked like giant metal dragons flying through space. Dr. Lisa Morgan stood next to Cain. She was Earth's top expert on alien life. She had studied these creatures for 5 years. They were called Draconians. They looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. They had sharp teeth and claws. They were very smart and very dangerous. "They have never lost a war," Lisa said quietly. "They have destroyed whole planets. Millions of people have died because of them." Cain nodded. He knew the stories. The Draconians had attacked the Centauri system last year. They had killed everyone there. Men, women, and children. No one had escaped. The planets were now empty. And dead. Commander Jake Thompson was in the command center on the space station above Earth. He was talking to all the human ships in the area. There were only 50 human ships. They were small compared to the Draconian fleet, but they were fast and had good weapons. "All ships, this is command," Jake said into his radio. "Stay calm. Wait for orders. We have a plan." The plan was secret. Only a few people knew about it. Earth had been getting ready for this day for 5 years. Ever since they first learned about the Draconians, humans had been preparing. They had built new weapons. They had hidden them all around Earth. The aliens did not know about these weapons. Captain Helen Brooks was on the moon. She controlled the defense satellites around Earth. There were thousands of them. They looked like small pieces of space junk. The Draconians would not notice them until it was too late. "All satellites are ready," Helen reported to Jake. "Weapons are charged and waiting." The biggest Draconian ship moved closer to Earth. It was the size of a small city. Cain could see lights on its surface. He knew the alien leader was inside. That ship, the Draconians called their leader a war prince. His name was Thexkar. He was famous across the galaxy for being cruel and smart. Suddenly, all the human ships received the same message. It came from the big Draconian ship. The message was in perfect English. The aliens had learned human language by listening to Earth's radio signals. "Humans of Earth," the message began. The voice was deep and scary. "I am War Prince Thexkar. I speak for the Draconian Empire. You will surrender now. You have 24 hours to give up. If you do not surrender, we will destroy your planet. We will kill everyone. This is not a choice. This is what will happen." Cain felt angry. These aliens thought humans were weak. They thought Earth would give up without a fight. They were wrong. Humans had fought wars for thousands of years. They had survived ice ages and plagues. They had built cities and spaceships. They would not give up now. "Send a message back," Cain told his communications officer. "What should I say, sir?" "Tell them we decline their offer." The young officer looked surprised. "That's all, sir?" "That's all. Keep it simple." The message went out to the Draconian fleet. Cain could imagine the War Prince reading it. The alien leader probably thought humans were stupid. He probably laughed. That was fine with Cain. Let the aliens think humans were dumb. It would make the surprise even better. Dr. Lisa Morgan was thinking about the Draconian psychology. She had studied their culture for years. They were proud creatures. They believed they were the strongest race in the galaxy. They had good reason to believe this. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. Their technology was very advanced. Their ships had powerful shields and weapons. But Lisa had learned something important about Draconians. They were not creative. They used the same battle plans over and over. They expected their enemies to fight in space, far from planets. They had never fought a species that used their own planet as a weapon. The Draconian fleet began to move. They were coming toward Earth in a straight line. This was exactly what the humans had hoped for. The aliens were following their usual pattern. They would try to destroy Earth's space defenses first. Then they would land troops on the planet. General Roy Martinez was deep, underground on Earth. He was in a bunker that was built under a mountain. Around him, hundreds of people were working at computers. They were getting ready to activate Earth's secret weapons. All gravity generators are online, one scientist reported. Magnetic field manipulators are ready, said another. Underground. Defense systems are armed, a third person added. Roy smiled. The Draconians thought they were attacking a weak, primitive planet. They had no idea that Earth itself had been turned into a giant trap. Every major city had hidden weapons. The planet's magnetic field had been changed. Even the gravity around. Earth could be controlled. Captain Helen Brooks watched the alien ships get closer. They were moving in perfect formation. Each ship was in exactly the right place. The Draconians were very organized. This was good for the humans. When the aliens were all in the same area, Earth's weapons would be most effective. 30 minutes. Until they reached the outer atmosphere. Helen reported. Jake Thompson took a deep breath. All ships, this is command. Remember the plan. Wait for the signal. When the trap is sprung, we hit them hard and fast. Kane looked at his crew. They were all young people. Some of them had never been in a real battle. They were scared, but they were ready to fight. This was their home. Their families were down on Earth. They would not let the aliens hurt them. The Draconian ships were getting very close now. Kane could see details on their hulls. They had strange symbols painted on them. The symbols probably meant something. In the alien language, maybe they were warnings to enemies. Maybe they were prayers to alien gods. Sir, the communications officer said, we're getting another message from the aliens. Let's hear it. The War Prince's voice filled the bridge again. Humans, you are fools. You cannot win. We have destroyed races that were much stronger than you. This is your last chance. Surrender. Now, and some of you will live as slaves. Fight us, and you will all die. Kane turned to his crew. What do you think, people? Should we surrender? No, sir, they all said at once. That's what I thought. Kane smiled. Get ready, everyone. The real fun is about to begin. The Draconian fleet reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere. The alien ships began to spread out. They were getting ready to attack. But they had no idea that they were flying into the biggest trap in human history. Down on Earth. Millions of people were watching the sky. They could see the alien ships as tiny dots of light. They were scared, but they trusted their leaders. They believed in the plan. They believed in humanity. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The Draconian ships entered Earth's atmosphere like giant metal birds. War Prince Dexkar stood in his command room, watching the blue planet below. He had done this many times before. First, he would destroy the planet's defenses. Then he would land his troops. Finally, he would watch the aliens surrender or die. Begin the attack, Dexkar ordered his crew. The Draconian ships fired their weapons at Earth's satellites. Red beams of energy shot through space. But something strange happened. The beams hit the satellites, but the satellites did not explode. Instead, they seemed to absorb the energy. Sir, one of the Draconian officers said, our weapons are not working properly. Dexcar looked at his screens. This was odd. Draconian weapons could destroy mountains. They should have easily destroyed the small human satellites. Something was wrong. General Roy Martinez smiled as he watched from his underground bunker. The Draconians had just fired at the fake satellites. The real defense satellites were hidden among pieces of space junk. The aliens had wasted their first attack on decoys. Activate Phase 1, Roy ordered. Deep inside Earth, massive machines began to work. They had been built in secret over the past 5 years. They were gravity generators, hidden in caves and mines all over the planet. When they turned on, they changed the gravity around Earth. The Draconian ships suddenly felt a strange pull. Their formation began to break apart. Ships that should have been flying in straight lines started to drift toward each other. The aliens had never seen anything like this. What is happening? War Prince Dexcar demanded. Sir, something is affecting our navigation systems, his officer replied. We're being pulled off course. Dexcar was angry. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had never faced a problem like this. Override the navigation systems. Use manual control. But it was too late. The gravity generators were working perfectly. The Draconian ships were being pulled into artificial gravity wells. It was like invisible hands were grabbing them and pulling them toward. Earth. Engineer Amy Foster was in a control room in Colorado. She was in charge of the second part of Earth's defense. She watched her screens as the alien ships got closer together. This was exactly what they had planned. Activate the magnetic field generators, Amy ordered. All around Earth, hidden machines came to life. They created powerful magnetic fields that reached far into space. The Draconian ships were made of metal. When the magnetic fields turned on, the ships began to spin and tumble. On the flagship, alarms were ringing. Dexcar's crew was panicking. Their instruments were going crazy. Their communications were being jammed. They could not talk to the other ships in their fleet. Sir, we're losing control of the ship, the pilot reported. Impossible, Dexcar said. These humans are primitives. They should not have this technology. But the War Prince was wrong. Humans had been studying Draconian technology for years. They had learned about the aliens' weaknesses. They had built their trap specifically to catch Draconian ships. Colonel Steve Adams was on the human flagship. He watched as the alien ships began to crash into each other. The Draconians had been flying in perfect formation. Now they were scattered across the sky like leaves in a storm. All human ships, this is Colonel Adams, he said into his radio. Begin the attack. Hit them while they're confused. The human ships had been hiding behind the moon. Now they flew out and attacked the Draconian fleet. The human ships were small and fast. They used the confusion to their advantage. Captain Helen Brooks controlled the real defense satellites. They had been disguised as space junk. Now they revealed themselves and fired at the alien ships. The Draconians were caught completely by surprise. Multiple hits on target, Helen reported. Their shields are down on several ships. The Draconian ships were designed for fighting in open space. They were big and powerful, but they were not built for close combat. The gravity wells and magnetic fields made it impossible for them to use their size. ADVATAGE, Dr. Patricia Lay, was monitoring the battle from her lab. She was watching the alien ship's behavior. The Draconians were trying to adapt to the new situation. They were smart creatures, but they had never faced anything like this before. They're trying to boost power to their engines, Patricia reported. But the magnetic fields are too strong. More Draconian ships began to collide with each other. Their formation was completely broken. Some ships were being pulled toward Earth by the artificial gravity. Others were spinning out of control because of the magnetic fields. Major Carl Johnson was on the ground. He was in charge of Earth's surface defenses. He watched as some alien ships tried to land on the planet. They were sending down small attack ships, hoping to capture cities and force Earth to surrender. All ground units, prepare for landing. Carl ordered. The Draconian landing craft entered Earth's atmosphere, but they flew into another trap. The humans had built energy shields around every major city. The alien ships crashed into invisible barriers and exploded. War Prince Thexkar was getting desperate. Half of his fleet was damaged or destroyed. His remaining ships could not fight effectively. The humans had turned his own tactics against him. Pull back, Thexkar ordered. Retreat to safe distance, but his ships could not retreat. The gravity. Wells held them like giant hands. The magnetic field scrambled their navigation systems. They were trapped near Earth. Engineer Amy Foster activated the third phase of the plan. Hidden all over Earth were devices that could create electromagnetic pulses. When they fired, they sent waves of energy through space. The waves hit the Draconian ships and damaged their electronic systems. Direct hit, Amy reported. Multiple alien ships are going dark. The Draconian ships began to shut down. Their lights went out. Their engines stopped working. They drifted in space like dead whales. Colonel Steve Adams pressed the attack. All ships, focus fire on the flagship. Take out their command ship. The human ships attacked War Prince Thexkar's massive vessel. The ship was heavily armored, but it was caught in a gravity well. It could not move to defend itself. Sir, we're taking heavy damage, the Draconian officer reported to Thexkar. This is impossible, the War Prince said. They are just humans. They should not be able to do this. But the impossible was happening. The humans had turned their own planet into a weapon. They had used science and planning to defeat a superior enemy. The Draconian Empire had never faced anything like this. Captain Helen Brooks watched her screens as more alien ships went dark. The trap was working better than they had hoped. The Draconians were completely helpless. 80% of the alien fleet is disabled. Helen reported. Admiral Cain Rodriguez felt proud of his species. Humans had always been good at solving problems. When they faced a bigger enemy, they used their brains instead of their muscles. The Draconians were stronger, but humans were smarter. On the ground, people were cheering. They could see the alien. Ships falling from the sky. The ships crashed into the ocean or into empty fields. The Draconians who survived the crashes were captured by human soldiers. War Prince. Thexkar looked around his damaged command room. Smoke was coming from broken computers. Half of his crew was injured. His great fleet was defeated by a species he had thought was weak. Send a message to the Empire, Thexkar ordered. Tell them what happened here. Sir, our communications are still jammed, his officer replied. Thexkar realized he was trapped. His fleet was destroyed. His communications were down. He could not call for help. The humans had planned everything perfectly. Dr. Patricia Lee watched the battle from her lab. The Draconians were trying one last desperate attack. They were sending all the remaining ships toward Earth's surface. They hoped to crash into cities and cause damage. They're making a suicide run, Patricia reported, but the humans were ready for this too. The energy shields around the cities were stronger than ever. The alien ships crashed into the barriers and exploded harmlessly in the sky. The battle was over. The great Draconian fleet was destroyed. The aliens who had conquered 100 worlds had been defeated by the humans they thought were weak. General Roy Martinez stood in his bunker, looking at the screens. The trap had worked perfectly. Earth's defenses had held. The planet was safe. Phase 1 complete, Roy announced. Prepare for Phase 2. The humans had won the battle. But the war was not over yet. The real challenge was just beginning. What they did next would change the galaxy forever. The battle had been going on for 18 hours. The sky around Earth was full of broken alien ships. Some were on fire. Others were drifting in space like dead metal whales. The great Draconian fleet was defeated, but they were not gone yet, Captain. Nina Walsh was on the moon base. She was watching the battlefield through a powerful telescope. She had been counting the alien ships that were still working. There were about 50 left out of the original 300. Command, this is Luna. Base, Nina said into her radio. The remaining alien ships are trying to group together. They might be planning one last attack. Admiral Cain Rodriguez heard the report. He was tired but alert. The battle had been hard, but they had won. Now they needed to finish the job. All ships stay ready, Cain ordered. Don't let them escape. But something strange was happening. Nina watched through her telescope as one of the alien ships began to flicker. It was like a light bulb that was about to burn out. The ship appeared and disappeared several times. Then it was gone completely. Command, did you see that? Nina asked. One of the alien ships just vanished. Cain looked at his screens. He could not see the ship anymore either. It had been there a moment ago. Now it was gone. This was not normal. Maybe it exploded, Cain's officer suggested. No, Nina said. There was no explosion. It just disappeared. Then another ship vanished. And another. Nina watched in amazement as the alien ships began to disappear one by one. They did not explode. They did not fly away. They simply stopped existing. Dr. Alan Cooper was deep underground in a secret laboratory. He was in charge of Earth's most secret project. For 5 years, he had been working on something called dimensional displacement. It was a way to make things disappear by sending them to another dimension. Sir, his assistant said, the quantum field generators are working perfectly. The dimensional anchor is stable. Alan smiled. His machines were hidden in the center of the Earth. They had been built in secret. Nobody knew about them except a few top scientists and military leaders. Good, Alan said. Phase 2 is working. Continue the process. The quantum field generators were creating a bubble around Earth. Anything that entered the bubble would be pulled into a pocket dimension. It was like an invisible trap that swallowed spaceships. War Prince Thexkar was on his flagship when the Osage ship vanishing began. He watched his screens as his ships disappeared one by one. He had never seen anything like this in all his years of war. What is happening to our ships? Thexkar demanded. Sir, we don't know, his officer replied. They're just gone. Our sensors can't find them. Thexkar felt fear for the first time in his life. He had conquered many worlds. He had faced many enemies, but he had never faced an enemy that could make his ships vanish into thin air. All ships, retreat immediately, Thexkar ordered. Get away from this planet. But it was too late. The quantum field had already surrounded his fleet. The ships that tried to escape just disappeared faster. The field was pulling them into the pocket dimension. Commander Beth Turner was in the command center. She was watching the disappearance of the alien fleet. Everything was going according to plan. The dimensional displacement was working perfectly. Sir, her officer said, 90% of the alien fleet has been displaced. Only a few ships remain. Good, Beth said. Continue until they're all gone. The humans had planned this for years. They knew they could not defeat the Draconians. In a normal battle, the aliens were too strong. So they had built a trap that would make the alien fleet disappear forever. Lieutenant Sam Kelly was on a hidden space station. His job was to make sure the galaxy heard the right story about what happened. He was preparing to send a message to all the alien civilizations in the galaxy. Message ready, sir, Sam reported. Send it, Beth ordered. The message went out on all frequencies. It said, Earth destroyed. Draconian fleet eliminated. No survivors. Both civilizations wiped out in final battle. The message was a lie. Earth was not destroyed. The humans were alive and well. But they wanted the galaxy to think both sides had been killed in the battle. War Prince. Vexcar's flagship was one of the last ships to disappear. He watched his command room flicker and fade. The walls became transparent. He could see strange colors and lights outside his ship. "Where are we?" Vexcar asked. "Sir, we're not in normal space anymore," his officer replied. "We're somewhere else." The pocket dimension was like a prison made of energy. The Draconian ships were trapped there forever. They could not escape. They could not send messages. They would drift in that strange place until the end of time. Captain Nina Walsh watched the last alien ship disappear. The space around Earth was empty now. There were no more Draconian ships, no more alien invaders. The sky was clear. "Command, all alien ships are gone," Nina reported. "The space around Earth is clear." But the humans were not done yet. They had to make sure the galaxy believed their story. They had to make it look like Earth had been destroyed. Engineer Rose Martinez was in charge of the final phase. She activated the special effects generators that had been hidden around Earth. They created fake explosions and radiation signatures. From far away, it would look like the planet had been destroyed. "All generators active," Rose reported. "The deception is complete." Admiral Cain Rodriguez looked at his screens. The battlefield was empty, except for pieces of space junk. The alien fleet was gone. Earth looked like it had been destroyed. The perfect crime was complete. "All ships return to hidden bases," Cain ordered. "Phase 3 is complete." The human ships flew away from Earth. They went to secret bases that had been built in asteroids and on distant moons. From now on, they would have to stay hidden. The galaxy had to believe that humanity was extinct. Dr. Alan Cooper shut down the quantum field generators. The dimensional displacement was complete. The entire Draconian fleet was trapped in the pocket dimension. They would never escape. They would never tell anyone what had really happened. "Sir," his assistant said, "the field is collapsing. The dimensional anchor is secure." "Perfect," Alan said. "The Draconians are locked away forever. They can't hurt anyone now." In the pocket dimension, War Prince Vexcar and his fleet drifted. In the strange space, they could see each other, but they could not communicate with the outside universe. They were prisoners in a place that did not really exist. How did they do this? Vexcar asked himself. How did these primitive humans defeat us? But there was no answer. The humans had used science and planning to create the perfect trap. They had made the strongest fleet in the galaxy disappear without a trace. Back on Earth, people were celebrating. They had won the greatest victory in human history. But they had to celebrate in secret. The galaxy could not know that Earth still existed. General Roy Martinez stood in his bunker, looking at the reports. The plan had worked perfectly. The Draconian fleet was gone. The galaxy thought Earth was destroyed. Humanity was safe and hidden. "Sir," his officer said, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Everyone is talking about what happened." Here, Roy smiled. The aliens were confused and scared. They did not understand how the humans had defeated the Draconians. They would spend years trying to figure out what had happened. Captain Helen Brooks was back on the moon base. She was monitoring the galactic communications. Alien civilizations were sending messages to each other. They were all talking about the mysterious battle at Earth. "Sir," Helen reported, "the galaxy is in shock. They can't believe the Draconian fleet is gone." This was exactly what the humans had wanted. The galaxy would be confused and scared. They would not know that humanity was still alive. They would not know that Earth had become the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Commander Beth Turner began the next phase of the plan. Human agents would be sent to alien worlds. They would pretend to be survivors from the destroyed Earth. They would gather information and make allies. All agents begin infiltration, Beth ordered. Remember, you are the last survivors of humanity. Earth is gone. You are refugees looking for a new home. The agents would spread across the galaxy. They would watch and listen. They would learn about alien civilizations. They would prepare for the day when humanity would reveal itself again. The battle for Earth was over. The humans had won, but this was just the beginning. The galaxy had no idea that humanity was still alive. They had no idea that Earth had become the most powerful planet in the galaxy. The Draconians were gone. Their mighty fleet had vanished, without a trace. The galaxy was left wondering what had happened, and humanity was ready to begin the next phase of their secret plan. The news spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. On 1,000 worlds, aliens stopped what they were doing and stared at their communication screens. The message was simple but shocking. Earth destroyed. Draconian fleet eliminated. No survivors. Ambassador Zex Thiel of the Andromedan Federation was in his office when the message arrived. He was a tall, thin creature with blue skin and large eyes. He had been alive for 300 years and had seen many wars. But this message made him sit down in surprise. "This cannot be true," Zexthal said to his assistant. The Draconians were the strongest military force in the galaxy. How could primitive humans destroy them? His assistant was equally confused. "Sir, the reports are coming from multiple sources. It seems to be true. Zexthal had met humans before. They were young, creatures who had only recently learned to travel between stars. They seemed intelligent, but weak. Their technology was hundreds of years behind the Draconians. Get me all the information we have about this battle," Zexthal ordered. "I want to know exactly what happened." On the crystal world of Zarian, the collective council was meeting. The council was made up of living crystals that could think and speak. They had been watching the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seen many civilizations rise and fall. "The Draconian Empire is in chaos," announced Crystal Mind Vorthex. "Without their main fleet, they cannot control their territory." "This is a significant change," said another council member. "The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted." The crystals were worried. The Draconians had been predictable enemies. They were brutal, but they followed patterns. Now that they were weakened, other aggressive species might try to take their place. Captain Doug Miller was on a space station in the neutral zone. He was pretending to be one of the last human survivors. His job was to spread the story that Earth had been destroyed. He was talking to a group of alien traders. "It was terrible," Doug said, making his voice sound sad. "The Draconians came without warning. Our planet fought bravely, but we were no match for them. In the end, both sides were destroyed." The aliens listened with interest. They had never seen a human before. Doug looked like a wounded survivor. His clothes were torn and dirty. He had fake scars on his face. "How did you escape?" asked a trader from the Centauri system. "I was on a cargo ship when the battle started," Doug replied. "I watched my home planet die. Now I'm just looking for a place where humans can live in peace." The story was perfect. The aliens believed every word. They felt sorry for this sad human who had lost his home. They did not suspect that Earth was still alive and well. On the insect world of Hive 7, the Queen Mind was receiving reports from her scouts. The insect race was very organized. They had millions of workers and thousands of scouts watching the galaxy. "Send probe ships to the Earth system," the Queen Mind ordered. "I want to see what remains of this battle." The insect ships flew toward Earth. They were small and fast. They could scan a star system and report back quickly. The Queen Mind wanted to know if there were any survivors or useful technology to salvage. Lieutenant Grace Evans was monitoring space around Earth from a chair. Hidden satellite. She saw the insect ships coming. This was expected. Many alien races would want to investigate the battle site. Incoming scouts, Grace reported to command. 3 insect probe ships approaching from the outer system. Let them see what they expect to see, came the reply from Admiral Kane Rodriguez. The fake debris field around Earth was perfect. It looked like the remains of a massive battle. There were pieces of metal floating in space. There were radiation signatures that suggested huge explosions. The insect ships scanned everything and found exactly what they expected to find. Report to Queen Mind, the lead scout transmitted. Earth system shows evidence of massive destruction. Both human and Draconian ships destroyed. No survivors detected. High radiation levels. System is uninhabitable. The Queen Mind was satisfied. The battle had been real. Both sides had been destroyed. There was nothing of value left in the Earth system. Dr. Marcus Young was in a secret base on the moon. He was studying the galaxy's reaction to the news. His job was to monitor alien communications and understand how different species were responding. The Draconian Empire is collapsing, Marcus reported. Their remaining fleets are fighting each other for control. Their conquered worlds are rebelling. This was exactly what the humans had hoped for. The Draconians had held their empire together through fear and strength. Without their main fleet, they could not control their territory. The empire was falling apart. On the water world of Aquatica, the fish people were celebrating. They had been slaves of the Draconians for 50 years. Now they were free. The Draconian governor had fled when he heard the news about the lost fleet. The tyrants are gone, said Elder Findar to his people. We are free to rule ourselves again. Similar celebrations were happening on dozens of worlds. The Draconian Empire had been cruel and oppressive. Now that they were weak, their former slaves were rising up, but not everyone was celebrating. Some alien species were worried about what came next. The Draconians had been evil, but they had also been predictable. Now there was a power vacuum in the galaxy. The Mechanical Collective was one of the worried species. They were robots that had achieved consciousness. They lived on artificial worlds and valued order and logic. Analysis complete, announced Unit Prime. 7,742. The disappearance of the Draconian fleet suggests unknown technology. This technology could be a threat to all civilizations. The robots were trying to figure out how the humans had destroyed the Draconians. They ran millions of calculations and simulations, but they could not understand what had happened. Theory: humans developed superweapon, suggested Unit Prime 3891. Weapon destroyed both fleets. Weapon may still exist on other human worlds. This theory scared many alien civilizations. If humans had a weapon that could destroy the Draconians, what would stop them from using it again? Captain Doug Miller was hearing these theories as he traveled from station to station. The aliens were afraid of human technology. They thought humans had built some kind of super weapon. We didn't have any super weapons, Doug told them sadly. We just fought as hard as we could. Both sides destroyed each other. There's nothing left. Some aliens believed him. Others were not so sure. They remembered that humans were clever and creative. Maybe the humans had built something amazing and used it to defeat the Draconians. On the gas giant world of Stormwind, the Cloud Riders were having a debate. They were energy beings who lived in the clouds of their planet. They were very wise and had long memories. The humans were young, said Cloud Dancer Veltar, but they showed great courage. They chose to die rather than be slaves. Perhaps, said another Cloud Rider, but I wonder if they truly died. Humans are known for their cunning. Perhaps this is a trick. This was the kind of thinking that worried the human leaders. Some aliens were starting to suspect that the story might not be true. The humans had to be very careful to maintain their deception. The Draconian Empire was dealing with its own problems. General Korthax was trying to hold the Empire together. He was on the throne world, trying to convince the other generals to follow him. The main fleet is gone, Korthax admitted. But we still have the border fleets. We can rebuild. Rebuild? Asked General Velthok. We don't even know what happened to our fleet. How can we rebuild when we don't know what we're facing? The Draconian generals were scared. They had never lost a fleet before. They didn't know if the humans had more superweapons. They didn't know if other species might attack them while they were weak. We need to find out what happened, Korthax sighed. Send our best spies to investigate. Find any human survivors. Learn their secrets. But the Draconian spies would find nothing. The humans had planned their deception too well. There were no clues that would reveal the truth. Commander Beth Turner was coordinating the human response from her secret base. She was reading reports from human agents across the galaxy. The plan was working perfectly. 6 months had passed since the great battle at Earth. The galaxy was a different place now. The Draconian Empire had completely fallen apart. Their remaining generals were fighting civil wars among themselves. Worlds that had been slaves for generations were now free. Commander Kelly Roberts stood on the bridge of her ship as it approached the Vega system. She was leading humanity's first secret colony mission. Her ship looked like a refugee vessel, old and damaged. But inside, it carried the best technology Earth could provide. Colony site confirmed, her navigator reported. The planet looks perfect for human settlement. The world was called Haven by the humans. It was far from the main shipping lanes. Few aliens ever came to this system. It would be the perfect place to build humanity's first hidden colony. Begin. Landing procedures, Kelly ordered. Remember, we're refugees from destroyed Earth. We're just looking for a place to live in peace. The colonists were all volunteers. They knew they might never see Earth again. But they also knew they were part of something important. They were building humanity's secret future among the stars. On Earth, the leaders were watching the colony mission with pride. President Linda Carter stood in the rebuilt White House bunker, looking at reports from across the galaxy. The Haven colony is established, reported General Roy Martinez. Population, 5,000. Status, undetected by local alien authorities. Excellent, Linda said. What about our other operations? Agent Miller has made contact with the Andromedan Federation, Roy continued. They're offering citizenship to human refugees. Agent Wilson has established a trading post in the Centauri system. Agent Davis is working with rebel groups in former Draconian territory. The plan was working perfectly. Humans were spreading across the galaxy as refugees and traders. Nobody suspected that they were all working together as part of a secret plan. The Galactic Council had voted to create a memorial fund for human refugees. They wanted to help the survivors of Earth's destruction. This gave the human agents perfect cover for their activities. Dr. Chris Anderson was writing a classified report for Earth's leadership. He was analyzing the long-term effects of the dimensional displacement weapon. The technology had worked better than anyone had hoped. The Draconian fleet remains trapped in the pocket dimension, Chris wrote. Our monitoring stations detect no signs of escape attempts. The dimensional prison is completely secure. The displaced Draconians were still alive in their strange prison, but they could never escape. They could never tell anyone what had really happened. They would drift forever in the space between dimensions. War Prince Vexkar was one of those prisoners. He spent his days staring out at the strange colors and lights of the pocket dimension. He had tried everything to escape. Nothing worked. His mighty fleet was trapped forever. How did they do it? Dexcar asked himself for the 1,000th time, how did those primitive humans defeat us so completely? But there was no answer. The humans had used science and planning to create the perfect trap. They had made the strongest fleet in the galaxy simply disappear. Back in normal space, the galaxy was adapting to its new reality. Many species were glad the Draconians were gone, but some were worried about what came next. The balance of power had changed completely. The Andromedan Federation was trying to become the new dominant force. They had a large fleet and controlled many star systems, but they were not as aggressive as the Draconians had been. Ambassador Zexthal was meeting with representatives from other species. They were trying to create a new alliance that would keep peace in the galaxy. We must work together, Zexthal said. The Draconians are gone, but other threats may emerge. We need unity and cooperation. The aliens were trying to build a better galaxy. They wanted to prevent another empire like the Draconians from rising to power. They had no idea that humanity was quietly becoming the most widespread species among them. Captain Doug Miller was on his 5th mission as a fake refugee. He was on the crystal world of Xerion, talking to the Collective Council. The crystal beings were offering to help human survivors. We have knowledge that may help your people, said Crystal Mind Verthex. We can teach you advanced mathematics and science. Consider it our gift to honor Earth's sacrifice. Doug accepted gratefully. The crystal beings' knowledge would be very useful to Earth scientists. But the crystals thought they were helping poor refugees, not a hidden galactic power. General, Amy Turner was planning humanity's long-term strategy from her secret base on the moon. She had maps of the galaxy showing human agents and colonies. The network was growing every month. Phase 5 is ready to begin, Amy reported to the Earth. Leadership. We can start establishing major colonies in remote systems. Our agent network can provide cover and support. The humans were thinking decades ahead. They would slowly build a hidden empire while maintaining the fiction that Earth was destroyed. By the time they revealed themselves, they would be too strong. For anyone to threaten. Dr. Alan Cooper was working on new versions of his dimensional displacement technology. He was building installations on several of humanity's secret colonies. If anyone threatened these worlds, they would face the same fate as the Draconians. The Tau Ceti installation is complete, Alan reported. A Alpha Centauri installation will be finished next month. Soon we'll have dimensional weapons protecting all our major colonies. The technology was improving with each installation. The newer versions were smaller and more powerful. They could protect entire star systems from invasion. On the trading station of Port Kepler, Agent Sarah Wilson was running a successful business. She sold human-made goods to alien customers. The aliens loved human craftsmanship and creativity. These human tools are amazing, said a Centauri trader. It's sad that their civilization is gone. They were very talented. Sarah smiled sadly. Yes, we were good at making things. I'm trying to keep our traditions alive. The alien didn't know that Sarah's human traditions were actually new products being manufactured on secret human colonies. Earth's industry was growing stronger every day. The insect queen mind was dealing with problems in her own territory. Some of her worker colonies were demanding more freedom. The fall of the Draconian Empire had inspired many species to seek independence. The workers are becoming difficult to control, reported Scout Mind Veltar. They have heard about the freedom of former Draconian worlds. They want similar freedoms. The Queen Mind was worried. The old order was breaking down across the galaxy. She needed to find new ways to maintain control without seeming oppressive. This was happening to many species. The Draconians had been so brutal that other empires seemed gentle by comparison. But now that the Draconians were gone, many subject. Peoples wanted complete freedom. Captain Frank Lewis was commanding. Earth's rebuilt fleet from a hidden base in the Kuiper Belt. The human fleet was larger and more advanced than it had been before the battle, but it remained completely hidden from alien observers. All ships report ready, Frank told his officers. The new stealth technology is working perfectly. We're invisible to alien sensors. The human fleet was Earth's secret guardian. If any species discovered the truth and tried to attack Earth, they would face a surprise even greater than the Draconians had experienced. The robots of the mechanical collective were still trying to solve the mystery of the Earth battle. They had built new computer models and run millions of simulations, but they could not figure out how the humans had won. All scenarios indicate human victory was impossible, reported Unit Prime 7742. Yet evidence confirms it happened. This paradox requires further investigation. The robots were too logical for their own good. They could not imagine the creative solution that humans had used. They kept looking for conventional explanations that did not exist. Agent Lisa Parker was on the water world of Aquatica, helping the fish people build their new government. The former Draconian slaves were grateful for any help they could get. "Thank you for your assistance," said Elder Findar. "Your people's sacrifice will not be forgotten. We will build a memorial to Earth in our capital city." Lisa felt a bit guilty about the deception. These fish people were genuinely grateful to the humans. They thought humanity had died to save them from the Draconians. In a way, it was true. Humanity had sacrificed their open existence to save the galaxy. The memorial zones around Earth were becoming pilgrimage sites. Aliens from across the galaxy came to pay their respects to the brave humans who had stopped the Draconians. They left flowers and gifts floating in space near the fake debris field. President Linda Carter read the reports about these memorials with mixed emotions. It was touching that so many species honored humanity's sacrifice, but it was also sad that they had to maintain this lie. "Our children will grow up in a hidden world," Linda said to her advisors. "They'll never be able to openly visit other planets or make alien friends." "It's the price of safety," General Roy Martinez replied. "Someday, when we're strong enough, we can reveal the truth. But not yet. The plan required patience. Humanity would remain hidden for decades, maybe centuries. They would slowly build their strength while the galaxy honored their memory. Dr. Marcus Young was studying the long-term effects of the Draconian collapse. Former Draconian territory was breaking up into hundreds of small nations. Some were peace,